Welcome to the Lay Low Pod, the podcast that keeps it real while you figure things out. I'm Erin, and let's lay low. If you're in a season of becoming where life doesn't look how it used to, but not quite how it will, you're in the right place. Sometimes to grow, you have to lay low. Hello. Welcome to the Lay Low Pod. My name is Erin. I'm so glad you found us today and spending a little time with me. I appreciate that. Wanted to just start off this week by what I have been watching and reading. You guys know that I always have the latest things. Watching is a movie I saw on Netflix called Voicemails for Isabel, and my nail girl actually texted me and told me to watch it because she and I have similar taste in shows. And so it took me 3 nights in a row to watch it. That shows my attention span lately. But it was a super cute movie. Kind of reminded me a little bit of You've Got Mail, that old Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. Oh my gosh, I haven't even thought about Meg Ryan in a long time, but remember that movie? Kind of maybe a little updated to that. It was just really, really cute. Loved it. Grab the Kleenex, definitely a tearjerker. Great soundtrack. And what I've been reading is the Joy Luck Club book, and that is by Amy Tan. My mom and I actually both agreed to read that book together because I am teaching her Mahjong, and it's about a girl whose mom passes away and she joins her mom's Mahjong group, and they're a bunch of immigrants from China and just a big story that evolves from that. So I enjoyed that. I listened to the book on the way up to visit my brother in Boise. I recorded the podcast with Monica last week and then literally jumped in the car and drove 5 hours to Boise, where my brother and his wife and 2 boys live. And their house is such a special place for me. I walk in the door and don't have a care in the world. My brother waits on me hand and foot. He just literally wants me to sit and hang out with his kids, and he cooks for me. He makes me coffee. He just is the best brother for me that I could ever have. And we always play games or we do Legos when I visit. So his little boys are so cute, and it just reminds me of my boys when they were that age, and it's always fun to spend time with them. But I kind of had a lot on my mind this weekend. I recorded that audio with Monica, and we mentioned my friend Amberly, who was my best friend who passed away in 2012. And she was on my mind all weekend, on the 5-hour drive there, on the 5-hour drive home. I actually saw a huge angel cloud in my windshield for a good solid hour. Like, I don't know if my car was not moving or if the cloud was going with me, but there was just an angel right there front and center. And I will share that photo on the Lay Low Pod Instagram page. But she was just really on my mind ever since I said her name out loud. And she and I are still very close. And even though she's been gone, gosh, now 14 years. But I'm going to tell the story of our friendship. And it's one of those things that I have been wanting to talk about. My sister actually texted me early on and asked when I was going to talk about Amberly. And I just haven't been ready. But for a lot of reasons, I'm definitely ready to share our special friendship, and hopefully it can just come from a place of love. And I'm realizing too that even though she passed away 14 years ago, I think that I'm just now even dealing with a layer of healing right now, because I'm just such a new version of myself right now that, of course, as I think of things that I've gone through in the past, there's going to be some little triggers and little things that remind me, okay, maybe this is a feeling you need to work through. I think healing, especially with grief, is not linear. There is no destination, and you just kind of have to feel it and feel your way through it. And I want to kind of dive into this story of this very, very special friendship that I got to experience in my life. When I moved to the one stoplight town, Troy was 1 year old. He had just had his first birthday. And when we moved there, it was only supposed to be for a 2-year time commitment. My husband at the time worked for a bank, and they purchased this group of small banks in that area, and they knew he had grown up in that area, so they wanted to have kind of a local person to help with the transition. And so we went down there knowing it was for 2 years. We moved and started building a house in the cul-de-sac, and we lived with his grandma while we built this house. Once we moved to town, we started going to church. Remember, you go to church based on your address, and you're assigned a location to go to church and a time. And at this time, whenever somebody would move in to they call it a ward, like your little ward is your little church family, I guess, what you would call it, that's where you're going to be going to church with these people. At this time, when you were new in church, they would have you stand up and they would introduce you. They call it reading on your records. Basically, your church records are moved to your new area and you stand up and they announce, we have these new people coming to church, and they say your names and you all stand up. I don't even know. I haven't been to church in a long time. I don't know if they still do this or not, but at the time, that's what they did. And Amberly told me later that she had just started going to church. She and her husband and her kids had not been going to church, but they had just started going back. And she remembers when I stood up in the church building, and she just knew that we were going to be friends. She saw my cute little boy. And at that time, she had twin boys the exact same age as my son, Troy. And then she had a son just 3 years older. And we ended up being pregnant together with our babies. So between the two of us, we had 6 boys. We just instantly became really close. We had a lot in common. We played bunco together. We would go up to the city and go to the movies, go shopping, go to Kohl's. I always remember Kohl's, which is funny. Remember Kohl's Cash? Is that still a thing? But we would go to Kohl's, but we would have our little girls' nights in the city. She'd always throw a big Cinco de Mayo Mexican party in her backyard. She loved to cook. She and her husband owned a pizza place in town, and she stayed home with the kids and did a lot of the behind the scenes work, and he worked in the pizza shop during the day. So we had a lot in common with both being self-employed. And I also have to mention our Twilight obsession, the books and the movies. We would literally obsess over them and go watch the movies together. We had just this little group of girlfriends in our neighborhood, and we were all just really, really close. It was fun. We all had little kids. We were all raising them together. We would go on spring break together. We just were really, really close, all the girls in my neighborhood, and Amberly and I were especially close. I think we got really close when we both got pregnant at the same time, and I have a picture of us sitting on my couch together, and we both have these big bellies, and she had painted the cutest canvases for Colt's nursery to match this darling nursery set that I had picked out. And she was an artist and she was creative, and I still have those little paintings from Colt's bedroom. She was just a really special girl. I hope at least that you guys can think of a friend in your life that you've had and you're just like, yeah, they were really special and they really loved me. And that was who Amberly was to me. We were raising our boys together, doing all of our fun things that we would do and loving life. And then Amberly started having some side effects. She just could tell something wasn't right. She was having some stomach stuff, but they were self-employed and they didn't have insurance at the time. So she kind of put things off. In the meantime, she did apply for a life insurance policy, knowing that there would be a physical connected to it and she could at least get some, blood work done and know if she was in good health or not. She was approved for the best policy of this life insurance plan, and she was confident that she was okay. Once she had her insurance in place, she went to the doctor with her side effects, and they instantly wanted to do blood work. I remember clearly thinking, okay, if something is wrong, it's going to show up in this blood work. Blood work comes back, everything's fine. So again, she's having all these symptoms. She's feeling like something's not right, but everything on the blood work is saying she's okay. So during this time, she was very much talking to us about that. We would pray with her. I remember at one time us girls going together to the Mormon temple. So if you are not Mormon, you might know what the Mormon church is from the temples that you see, especially here in Utah. I feel like they're just everywhere, but they are those big white buildings with a little statue on top, and they're different from churches. Churches, really anybody can go to, but at the temple, there are special requirements from the Mormon church that you have to abide by to go inside. And so it's basically a special members only church. Let's call it that, like a private club church. Okay. And I remember us all going to the temple together while she was waiting for some results because she just needed support. And I think she could tell even then that something was wrong. And this is what reminds me of Monica's story last week. And I know there are so many similarities between Amberly and Monica. If you haven't listened to last week's episode with Monica Ross, please go listen. It's a beautiful story of being a cancer survivor. And they have so many things in common, but Monica got to live. And for some reason, Amberly didn't. And I've just been thinking about that. And two things, just one, if you have a gut feeling about your health, you have to act on it. And I hate the whole medical insurance world because there have been times in my adult life where I haven't had insurance. I've had to go to Planned Parenthood because I didn't have insurance. I've been there where you just don't have a lot of good medical insurance options. And so I hate that that plays into the story. So please, if you are having any kind of gut feeling about your health, act on it. And second, remember to live. I just think about Monica and Amberly and why one is still here and one is not. Either way, every day is a gift and nothing is guaranteed. Tomorrow is not a guarantee. We might live like it's a guarantee, but it is not. We have to live a life we're proud of. After all of the blood work came back and it was all clean, they went in and did scans. They found a large tumor in Amberly's pancreas, and she was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And if you don't know much about pancreatic cancer, it can either be extremely fast or it can be slower, where you have years to live. And we just think that Amberly had the second one. She lived about 2.5 years after her diagnosis. I think I knew very early on that things were not good. And I kind of think that that was a gift that God gave to me because he knew that I could handle it. And that's going to come up as I tell this story. But I think he told me very early on that it was not going to be good. I always just knew she was not going to make it. And it sounds really bad, but I knew from a very early on moment that it was grim. I just knew. After her diagnosis, my dad, who is a doctor at the University of Utah, pulled some strings and got her in with a top oncologist up there to discuss a treatment plan. And she went to this appointment and decided not to move forward with any of her treatments. And at the time, it wasn't really a story of, yes, these treatments are going to cure you. It was really just giving her more time. It was really just caught so late that there really was just not a lot that could have been done. But Amberly refused this diagnosis from the start, and she really refused it until she died. And she fought like she could change the future. And she did not want to do any of the traditional treatments like radiation or chemo. There really weren't a lot of options, honestly. But instead, she wanted to dive into a real natural path where she was taking tons of essential oils and vitamins. And I remember doing this vitamin D treatment thing. I just remember a lot of natural remedies. People saying, I have a friend and this worked for her, it cured her cancer. Or my brother-in-law did this and it gave him more time. It were stories like that, things coming into her lane that she was exploring and acting on because she was just not going to go down without a fight. And I do believe she believed with all her heart that she'd get better. She just always believed it. She always believed it. When she was making these decisions against traditional treatment, more into a holistic treatment, she had a lot of people not understand her, and she had people judging her and talking about her like she didn't know what was best for her, and she didn't care. She truly didn't care. It was her fight, it was her body, it was her mind, and she was gonna do it her way, and I love that about her. I love that about her. She was such a firecracker, and she just charted her own course. You can tell why we got along so well. We were both little firecrackers. I think it's an important lesson too, that just because you don't understand somebody's reasoning, whether it's a health situation or really any situation in life, you don't have to understand somebody's view, somebody's opinion. You don't have to understand their reasoning to give them love and support. And I think the world would just be so much more peaceful if we stopped trying to necessarily understand people, because we're all so different and we're all built on all the experiences that we've had in our lives. And there is just a million people and a million ways to be that same person. It's just, we can love people without needing to understand where they're coming from. We can support people without needing to agree with them. I think the world would just be more peaceful if we could focus more on love and support instead of needing to agree or even understand at times, that we can still love. And the right people stayed with Amberly and loved her. She had so much love and support, and she didn't care about the others. She really, really didn't. So when Amberly got her diagnosis, I had really not lost anybody close to me to anything, let alone cancer. Most of my grandparents were all still alive. I have never lost a friend before. I just was in my late 20s and had not experienced much loss, had not experienced any loss. And going through this with Amberly changed me in so many ways. And also, it made me learn a lot of things about myself. And the main thing I think of is I just wanted to fix it. That is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make everything better for her. And if I couldn't cure her, I wanted to give her the most support she could ever have. And that came by coordinating meals from our group of friends. Our little group of friends really stepped up to be there for her. And in the meantime, we all bonded. We are all still very, very close because she bonded us together. I would help her with the boys. We had our Sip It soda and we did a fundraiser there. And that was tricky because one of my other friends accused me of stealing money from her fundraiser, where we said all of the profits from the day were going to go towards her medical costs. And one of my good friends called me out and it made some accusations of me. And that actually ended that friendship, which is sad when you're trying to help a friend and then somebody else just wants to see the worst in you. But that happens, right? Right. I organized a fundraiser for her with another friend, and we put on an all-night softball tournament and auction, and we raised a ton of money for her, sent her family to Disneyland, which was all she really wanted. She hadn't taken the boys to Disneyland yet, and that was really her big thing that she wanted. So we helped do that, and that was covered on the local news, which was fun to do that together. I'll have to find that. But I was just finding any way that I could fix things for her, or at least just make things easier for her. At the end of her life, I was working on my laptop from her house while the little boys, they weren't even in school all day yet. And we were keeping them at home and I was there with her. But during this time, I was depressed big time. I was closet drinking whenever I could. I would hide alcohol in my house and try to numb anything. During this time at the end of her life, I was just so cloudy. That's really the only word that I could describe of what I was going through. Everything just felt like a fog. And during this time, I got way too close to another man. He was a cop in town, and we were all just group friends, and he and I just ended up getting really close, and it was the first time in my life that I was in this situation where I felt an attraction to somebody who wasn't my husband. Nobody told me that could happen or what to do when that happens, and now you definitely should be talking to your kids and people in your life about what happens because it's gonna happen. But I thought that I was strong enough to keep my own boundaries, set my own rules, and so I went into this bishop's office and, told him that these are the feelings I was having. I don't want this. I wanna be with my husband. I just wanna get all of this handled so that I can move on, and he gave me some advice. He didn't Sometimes in this situation, you could get in trouble with, like, certain Mormon things you're not allowed to do. Gosh, it sounds so weird when you really say it like that, but I didn't get in trouble from him at all. He basically gave me some advice and told me, "You got this," and to go along my way. And then I found out the next day that that bishop called the cop's wife, who was my friend, and told her to be cautious about my friendship with her husband, which instantly blew everything up. Everybody thought we were in this like full on affair, lots of gossip in this little town at the end of Amberly's life that I hated that happened. But that bishop, I ended up going into his office a year later and confronting him about it because I said, "You made so many problems. Like, I came in here, told you what happened. You didn't even get mad at me. You didn't tell me I couldn't go to the temple. You didn't tell me I couldn't take the sacrament. You told me I was okay and that just to do better. And then you go and call this guy's wife." And he just said, "Erin, I am the bishop, and in this position, I don't have a good memory of everything that happens. If I remembered everything that people told me or everything that I experienced, I just wouldn't be able to sleep at night. I wouldn't be able to function. And so, Heavenly Father erases my memory, so I don't remember those things. So, I can't tell you if I called her or not. I might have, I might not have, but I don't know." And that was his response, which basically gaslit me. And definitely had issues with the church after that moment. After that whole experience, I was like, "Who is this guy and why would I ever come into him ever again and tell him anything?" I was being proactive. I was making sure that things didn't get bad. Yet that happened, and then the whole town thought I was having an affair. So that's fun. And that bishop is now running for some, like, county office. I see he invited me recently to some, like, vote for so and so. He's running for something, I don't even know, but I'm like, hard no, not happening. And I'm not blaming my depression on making, some bad choices at that time, but I also just know I was just not myself. I was just in a really dark place caring for her because a lot of the care for Amberly at the end of her life, I felt like it was on me. Her family lived a couple hours away and they were busy and they did what they could, but I think at the same time they didn't understand how bad it was for as long as it was either. And her husband had these boys he was trying to take care of and keep a business running, and he himself, I think, was in his own state of denial in ways as well. And so it just felt like nobody had clear vision about how bad this was. And I remember several conversations with several people where I felt like, why can't anybody step up for her? And I just learned that everybody was just doing their best, and I'm grateful that I had that clear vision from an early time where I knew she was gonna need me, and I was able to do that for her. And I know at the end of her life, I have no regrets. She knew that I loved her. She knew I was right there. We had hospice in just for the last, I don't even think she was there for a week, but the most amazing angel, Christy, was there to care for her. And I literally watched my best friend disappear. I watched her die right before my eyes. I watched her body dissolve. There is no other way to describe it. And it was traumatic. And it was just really hard. About halfway through Amberly's cancer journey, she at the end, it just really felt like everybody tried to make life as comfortable for her as possible at the end, but she was not slowing down either. I remember less than a month before she passed away, it was her birthday, and she was still vacuuming her floor. And she was telling us how heavy her vacuum was and how it was hard to vacuum. And us girls, we put our money together and we bought her a Dyson vacuum that was just really lightweight that she would be able to use. And we all went over to give it to her, and we stood on her front porch, and we had taken a big poster board and cut it into the shape of a heart, and we all wrote messages on it. And we have a picture with her standing on our porch with this heart and her vacuum. And that was less than a month before she passed away. So she was still doing everything she could. And I still think for the most part, she thought she was going to be getting better. But her story is a story of a mother who had 34 years on the earth, and she had 4 beautiful boys, and she lived a life that she loved every single day, and she fought for every single day. And she died when she was 34, and I think that is when she was older than me, but when I turned 34 was when I got really serious about my life, and it was impacted by her, and I thought this was the age where she was gone. She only had her life up to this year, and if I'm gonna live beyond the year of 34, I need to be living a life I'm proud of. I need to be living a life where I'm aligned. And when I was 34 was when I started my exit from my marriage, and the church exit had been going on a little while, but that's when things got very real logistically, where my life physically was catching up with everything that was going on inside. Losing Amberly changed everything. I'd never experienced grief before. I was still so emotionally unintelligent at this time, still had never been to therapy. I don't think I had read a book about emotionally important or anything, but I remember just feeling very, very lost and questioning why this perfect mom isn't here to raise her kids. The questions were, why are we all watching these little boys playing t-ball, baseball, and their amazing mom isn't here? And that's something you just never understand because there's just no answer, right? But you take the lessons from the experience, and you take the memories, and you take all the good that they were, and you try to honor that. And you try to live a life that you're proud of because they're still here and they're still proud of us. No doubt in my mind about that, because losing Amberly is really when I started down my journey of spirituality when it comes to psychics, when it comes to energy work. This is the time where I started getting into those things. And Amberly is still so much a part of my life in so many ways. Whenever I see a psychic, I'm always hoping that she's going to come through. And she's actually come through a few times. The first time she came through was not long after she'd passed away. We went to a group session with a psychic medium, and you're kind of in this big room, and she walks around and she kind of feels a spirit, and she'll stop and talk to you and, relay a message. And that happened. A few of us girls went to this session, and she came and she talked to me, and she talked about a necklace that I had on that was under my shirt. And yes, I had this necklace that Amberly had given me, this charm necklace. I'm lucky to have several gifts from her that still mean a lot to me. But I had this necklace on. And then the other thing that the medium said, she was talking about a heart. And the lady just kept standing there, and she's like, she's letting you know about the heart. And she just kept drawing with her fingers a big heart. She goes, it's big. It's almost as big as her. She's like, what is this heart, this big heart? And she just kept making the motion of a heart. And I was just stunned, and I was like, "I don't know. I don't know. I don't know." And another tip, if you ever go to a psychic, record it, because even still now, I always record my sessions because I always forget things, but I wish I had that first one recorded. But she kept talking about this big heart. She's holding a heart. She's holding a heart. It's a big heart. And I just couldn't connect it. And I remember that drive home just thinking, what in the world was she talking about? Like, what heart? And I got home and it clicked. And I pulled up the photo of us on Amberly's front porch with her Dyson vacuum. And it was a big heart cut out of a big poster board that we had all signed. And when I saw Amberly standing there with this big poster board heart, I thought, that is it. That was the message. She was just recognizing that she was there. And that was all that came through that time. I think that was maybe early. I do believe that spirits have kind of like a little time where they need to get settled before they're comfortable having a voice. And so that makes total sense that she was that way. Earlier this year, actually, Amberly came through and she a few things. She gave me dating advice, and that was pretty much what she wanted to talk about. The psychic said, "This woman has been with me all morning, and she obviously wanted to chat with you." And I was like, "I know who it is." And she said, "Erin," she had not come through in years, but she said, she wants to tell you that nobody deserves true love more than you do. And she doesn't think you've ever had it, but she knows that you're worthy of a true, true love. And she told me that she was my wing woman and that she's with me on the search. And she gave me some specific advice that I have taken. And she just said she's in it with me. And I believe that. And I feel her all the time. Amberly wanted to travel so badly, and anytime I'm traveling, she's really fresh on my mind when I'm at a view where you just stand there and you're like, "Wow, look at this view, amazing." I always have a check-in with her and think, "Okay, Amberly, can you see this view? This is for you. I hope you're here. I hope you get to see this." And just little things like that, I feel that I've been able to keep her in my heart and still talk with her. I still feel her, but it took years of being really sad about it before I could see any light on the other side. And there's no timetable to grief. It can be something that you process pretty simply. It can be something that takes a long time. And I don't think that there is a destination at all with grief. It really is just something to feel and something to make peace with, making peace that they are with you in a different way. I hope that's something that you can believe in, because I don't want a reality that I don't believe that my loved ones who have passed are not close to me. That's just something that I will always believe and always have that hope. And being able to feel them close is extremely special to me. If you are going through a loss of somebody that you love right now, I wish I could just give you a big hug, first of all, and just let you know that time will help. Time does heal, but getting through that time and getting through that healing is hard. And be easy on yourself, feel the feelings, take the time, honor them in a way that is meaningful to you. Find ways to keep them in your heart, and just realize that grief is love with nowhere to go. You have that love. That love does not go anywhere. That love is always going to be there. But when they are gone, you don't have anybody to give it to. So that's what grief is. And find a way that you can give that love that you have for them somewhere that honors them, somewhere that connects you still, because they are not far. They are not far from you. One of my lines that I think of all the time with Amberly, during the time I was doing that big fundraiser for her, she told me that, "Erin, I'm convinced that you could run a small country." That was kind of her little line she'd tell me all the time. "Erin, I'm convinced you could run a small country." And I think now, if she could see me now, well, she can see me now. I know she's proud of me. And I know she knows I can do anything that I want, but she's just cheering me on still in such a different way. I don't miss Amberly any less right now than I did 14 years ago. I've just kind of learned how to carry my love for her differently. And I still catch myself thinking, oh, I wish she was here. I wish she could see this. And I still think of her boys regularly anytime I can catch a glimpse of them in a photo of anything on social media. It just makes me really happy to know that they're okay. And hopefully they will always know how much their mom loved them. Loving Amberly changed my life and losing Amberly changed my life. But I'm so grateful that I got to experience such a beautiful friendship and such an authentic, true friendship of love, because I hope everybody gets to have a friend who loves them the way Amberly loved me. And I hope that we can all be that type of friend to somebody who needs it as well. And I know this was a heavy episode, but thank you for letting me share this. It needed to come out, and I made sure to talk to her before I hit record and said, okay, Am, we're going to do this. We're going to do this together. And I think she would love the podcast. I hope she loved our story today. And I'm sending love to any of you going through a similar loss or life transition that is difficult. And just know you're not alone. Thank you for laying low with me today. I promise we'll have a more exciting topic next week. Let's laugh next week. I feel like we had a couple of heavy weeks, but let's laugh next week. I'm going to make sure of it. If you guys have questions you want me to answer, or if you want to apply to be a guest on the podcast, I would love that. Just go to laylowpod.com and you can fill in the questionnaire there. Thank you for laying low with me. We'll see you next time.